Hello, so here we are on a rainy day version of Between Two Ferns, or Between a Fern. No, anyway, what I'm here to do is to tell you a bit about a video that I really like that's been pretty influential for me. And it is by the British artist Gillian Wearing. Um, and the piece was made in 1994. I guess at the height of the YBA, Young British Artists craze that swept through the contemporary art world. And I guess someone who was, a part of that world, but a much quieter and shyer member is Gillian Wearing. And at this time, she made a video called Confess All on Video. Don't worry, you'll be in disguise. Intrigued? Call Gillian. And it's a 30-minute video, basically made up from several sort of anonymous portraits that she shot. She put out a classified ad in Time Out magazine in London, and a whole bunch of strangers replied to her ad, which is basically the title of this work, Confess All on Video. The subjects were filmed at a location. I'm not sure whether it was at a studio or a hall somewhere, but it's a pretty nondescript, just white backdrop. And Gillian Wearing brought a whole bunch of masks and wigs and disguises from home, which the strangers could don as they confessed. And I guess no one really knows whether these are real confessions. There are some quite disturbing ones. There are some quite poignant and sad ones. It really does sit in that nebulous world between documentary, reality, and truth, and fiction, and filmmaking and narrative. And I feel like this particular work really does sort of bring into light all those questions, all those kind of contradictory things that I like about video itself. But the images of these people in kind of outlandish wigs, or the image of a woman with her face sort of mushed up with packing tape, are very striking. And also the language and what they say sort of sticks with you, I think. And you feel like you are in some kind of strange carnival-esque confessional booth. So it sort of conjures up ideas of religious confession, cleansing, all with this sort of absurdist look, with people whose identities are hidden. The first time I actually came into contact with this work was through a book of Gillian Wearing's work. I guess one thing that's quite interesting with video is that it's so ephemeral. Often, if you haven't been lucky enough to see the work installed in a gallery space or at a screening, and it hasn't made its way to YouTube, you may not actually ever be able to see the work unless you see it in books or documented. And this is how I first came across the work and was intrigued by it, and by almost all the rest of Gillian Wearing's work as well, because it sort of does fit into that zone between truth and fiction, photography, video, portraiture, film, things that I'm quite interested in mixing up and messing around with in my work. And as an aside, another thing that's quite interesting about Gillian is, by all accounts, she's quite a shy person, but she's someone who really sets up situations where she has to approach people to ask them for permission to be in her work, to sort of, kind of say or do quite intimate things. And there's an element, I guess, of risk where she puts herself out there on the street. Maybe not so much now, but certainly in these early works. And I was reading an interview about her and her work where she spoke about another piece of hers, which I think is just called Signs, where she approached people and gave them a blank sheet of paper and asked them to write anything that came to mind. And she did a series of photographs of these works. She said in her interview that as time went on, it got easier and easier to approach strangers in the street. And she wasn't sort of feeling anxious or stressed or didn't feel really risky anymore. And she said that the words or the signs that came back from these people that she approached after she was feeling confident were not as heightened or strong or maybe as telling or something as the early ones, where she had felt like she'd put herself out on the line and maybe sort of dived in to unknown terrain. So I find that quite interesting, that element of risk and sort of boundary pushing for the artists themselves to undertake a work that where they don't know the outcome and where they're sort of relying on strangers or throwing an idea out into the ether and inviting anyone or very particular, maybe curious people to respond. So yeah, go out there. If you get a chance, please hunt down this video work. There's a little snippet on a YouTube clip, but maybe one day you'll be lucky enough to see it in a gallery somewhere, or try and upload it to YouTube for us all.